Hello.
All right, guys. Title of this panel is Frictionless DeFi. With me today, I have Klossy from Mango, I have Soju from Solend, Tom from Nova Finance, and Trevor from Parcel. To get right into it, it'd be great to start with some brief intros. Your name, tiny bit of background about what got you excited about the Solana space, and a bit about the project that you guys are working on now.
Sure. Hey, everyone. I'm Klossy. I run the Mango Liquidity Council. That is what we would call, I guess, like a sub-DAO to the Mango DAO. It was funded in order to focus on liquidity for Mango Markets products. Mango Markets is a decentralized exchange that offers cross-margin trading on perpetuals as well as spot. Spot is on Serum. We've done about $30 billion worth of volume since launch of V3. I'm sure everyone's heard some of the news, but V3 is currently down right now. Coming to the Solana space, I came to Breakpoint last year, where I met Maximilian Schneider, who's one of the founders of Mango Markets. I used to work in the CeFi space for a centralized exchange on all things liquidity, market making. We run our own algorithms on Mango Markets, and essentially Max was like, "Hey, look, come to Mango Markets, help us out. We need to work on liquidity because at the end of the day, that's sort of what matters." I think that's also pretty particular to this conversation about attracting users to DeFi. Liquidity is sort of at the forefront of that. I'll wrap it up there and pass it on.
Yeah, thanks. So that's it. Yeah, my name is Soju. I came to DeFi on Solana specifically, maybe at January last year. I'm one of those people who don't have much money on chain. I was priced out with Ethereum. I went to Binance Smart Chain. I eventually felt that the fees there were too much as well. Then I went to Solana. So with the low fees we saw on Solana, we really saw this extremely large surge of new users coming in. So Discords were being flooded with people asking for help and stuff. And that's when I got my first job in Solana, being Radium's Discord reply guy. Then I went from there to doing Discord questions for half the DeFi space as we know today. And I went full time with Solend. So Solend is the Solana's DeFi's largest protocol by TVL. Users can deposit and borrow any asset on SPL. We have about 73 different assets listed now. And our goal is to make DeFi accessible to everybody. So anybody should be able to earn interest on any token or borrow interest or borrow any other token out of it.
Hey guys, my name's Tom, co-founded Nova Finance. We're very lucky to receive some investment from Solana and Animoca and partner with Alameda. And yeah, basically with with Nova Finance, you can create a portfolio, layer a set of algorithms, investment rules into that portfolio, things like auto rebalancing, dollar cost average into the market, and then share that portfolio with your friends, your family, maybe your following if you've got, if you're a famous person online, and you'll get 10% of all of the yield that's generated from their deposits.
Great, thank you. I'm Trevor Bacon, the co-founder and CEO of Parcel. Parcel is a synthetic derivatives, real estate derivatives platform built on Solana. We allow you to get levered long or short the price movement of any given real estate market on our platform. We built on Solana because we think that it's the chain that every chain wants to be, fast, cheap, and scalable. And it has a great wallet infrastructure that we think is important for consumer adoption.
Now, on that topic of consumer adoption, title of our panel today is Frictionless DeFi. What do you guys see as some of the main sort of friction points or pain points in the current DeFi ecosystem? And how are you guys looking to potentially address that through what you guys are building?
Totally. So I think a lot of us might take it for granted that we are actually early adopters in this new, innovative asset called crypto. And that means that we've got a lot of kind of insider knowledge, you could say. And so with that in mind, we need to consider how we can make some of this jargon that we create in the DeFi space a little more understandable, but also how could we package that knowledge that we have and use that in a way to sort of onboard newcomers to the space. So with Nova, it's all about creating that portfolio, embed your investment thesis into the portfolio, and then share it with the newcomers. So they don't need to learn these kind of complex financial skills. So I think that's a really key bit is kind of that knowledge sharing piece.
Yeah, so I think if we think about DeFi and we want it to be frictionless, one of the sort of key points for a trading venue is being able to place transactions and being able to place those transactions a lot without sort of limitations. So I think that kind of starts at the wallet layer if you're a standard user. You don't, you've got these two schools of thought, or essentially you want to limit any transactions going through or sort of automated transactions because users might be on a site that is malicious, that they connect up and all of a sudden they lose all their funds. But when it comes to trading, if you're competing against FTX, Binance, OKX, Bybit, the CeFi exchanges, and us being in DeFi, obviously we really compete with that volume directly, that user base, that liquidity. So I think it sort of at the core of it, the frictionless DeFi starts with wallets, right? Being able to give users the experience that they can have on an exchange, right? They want to transact. They don't want to have to wait for transactions to confirm, right? They don't want to have to click every single time. So if you're using a UI that's very clean, there are a bunch of very clean UIs. I think everyone on this panel has a pretty solid UI. Essentially, you want your users to interact with that as easily as possible, and that's sort of the starting point. I mean, and that's after you've onboarded to Solana, right? Or whatever chain you're transacting on. Yeah.
Totally.
Oh.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. It's interesting that he brought up UI. Just for us, what we feel that in maybe 2 years' time, if I'm using Solen via Solen's UI, it means that I have failed at my job. The ideal scenario for Solen is that many people will be using our protocol through a bunch of other protocols without even realizing that Solen's in the background. So we have about 15 protocols today that bring maybe 20 million TVL to Solen through like users doing actions on other protocols, funds that deposited in Solen, and things happen all in the background. Solen's goal is to be like a universal primitive on top of Solana, which lets use other protocols, other people, other projects just tap into it and access it for you, access it for cheap borrow rates and all of that. And that purely brings out the potential of Solana. It's a monolithic chain where everybody builds on top of it. There's no like L2s, bridges, there's no like chasms to cross to work together, which is why we love Solana.
Yeah, to follow on Tom's point, I think the key is to abstract away complexity, and that comes from education and UI. And ideally, we're not aware that we're using crypto in the long run. It's a great way to efficiently transact permissionlessly, and that's why we love building on crypto. And our team focuses a lot on UI UX.
Yeah, and I was just to add on that point, actually, one thing I think is great about your project is you're expanding the asset base by which we can pretty much, invest in these kind of blockchain and crypto networks, which is, pretty cool, the real estate side of things.
Yeah, to add on to that, with Parcel specifically, it's a really interesting product because obviously for many people, interacting with DeFi and AMMs and all these other really complicated products don't really come to them naturally, but a lot of people own their homes, right? A lot of people invest in real estate, and so in terms of the friction for onboarding, more of what we could call normies, for lack of a better term, there is something really to be said about having simple financial products that are easier for like the average person to understand. To follow on to that question, who do you guys see as sort of your target users today, and how do you guys see that evolving over time as more and more people enter the Solana ecosystem?
Because it is crypto, we have to go where the fish are, which are DeFi users today. I think over time, with exactly what we just said, education, UI, UX, you can broaden the amount of people that come on. So we do believe there's a curve of people that are a little younger generationally, like millennials, up and coming, that are more risk-seeking, that can be key users for us.
Yeah, I think in our case, I've been in the crypto space for about 6 years now, and I guess in many ways Nova was built for kind of someone like me who had kind of been through a few bear and bull markets, like kind of weathered the storms, and through that experience, like improved my approach to investing. And I think focusing on those kind of experts and onboarding them on Nova is all about sort of bringing that expertise knowledge, putting it in portfolios, and then sharing it with sort of the newcomers to the space. People who've maybe they bought their first Bitcoin, their first Ethereum, some Solana. They kind of know what DeFi is, but they haven't really gotten into it yet. And so we're sort of there to help them find, investment opportunities that kind of follow a bit more of an expert approach to things.
Yeah, I think for Solen, our user base splits into two categories. End of the day, Solen is a platform for leverage similar to Mango. You need like degens over there trading, doing stupid shit, borrowing tons of money, doing stuff with it. But these people will come to Solen because we will offer the best and most competitive borrow APYs. But where does the APYs come from if we outsupply? So we will need protocols that integrate us with all the idle cash sitting in smart contracts around to be in Solen, earning yield from these users, which gives users like extremely deep liquidity pools to borrow from. So like for now, Solen has like I think 100 million USDC or USDT combined. So if you want to borrow like a $10 million loan, you can even do that quite easily on Solen. But that's now during the bear market. As the future grows, as TVL grows, I think in the future, $1 billion of borrow volume can happen in a single day, and the borrow API wouldn't even change, which is the target goal for us.
Yeah, I got into crypto because I didn't have to provide my KYC back in the day. So I would say, we've got this, trajectory from everyone didn't want to sort of put KYC in the early days. All the exchanges are now fully KYC'd. DeFi, you're interacting with P2P, and essentially we've got this this initial user base of DeFi, which is pretty much like anti-KYC. I think we move to this user base probably where the users themselves, they want to do KYC themselves, right? So maybe there are some on-chain projects that provide you with some form of an NFT, right, that allows you to interact on a market where, if you're trading crypto derivatives, you know who your counterparties are, right? Or you at least know that they went through some form of KYC AML, which, a lot of companies have been in the spotlight for, not doing that. So I think, there's this school of users, and then there's also, you want to make it as easy as possible, right? If you can do absolutely everything within, for example, a wallet, right? You can use Solend, you can use Mango Markets within a wallet. You don't have to ever exit that. And I think there are a couple guys building this particularly.
Shout out to Armani and Tristan.
Back. So I think that's the kind of users we're looking for. Make it as easy as possible to do whatever you want with the least sort of barrier possible. And I think that's those particular users, they're probably pretty crypto native already. Yeah.
Cool, and moving forward, obviously, we're here at Breakpoint. We've got a bunch of people in the crowd. What are some of the products or features that you guys would like to see built into the ecosystem that you think could kind of lower some of the barriers to entry for the average user?
Oh, yeah. So I think a lot can be done in the area of risk and just making the users or newcomers to the crypto space aware of those risks and the pitfalls involved. And maybe it's along the lines of some kind of risk rating. Maybe it's along the lines of like bringing people onto a platform where sort of they're only there because they're a trusted provider, if you see what I mean. We're talking about integrations into wallets. Like, we should know whoever's integrated in that wallet is not going to rug pull me, is not going to put me at unwarranted risk. So I think a lot could be done in just improving trust in the space and almost creating that sense of what are the risks involved.
I think for us, it's, we do believe over time we'll have some form of regulation and getting people on it. It's not a popular opinion, but so easier ways to KYC, AML, they can be integrated on chain without actually giving identity, I think would be great. Also, zero knowledge solutions to help oracles, like ZK oracles, would be great too.
Yeah, I think to bring on many more users, we need projects that abstract away lots of complexity, as something that we've been mentioning here. If you open Solen's website today, you will see users and tons of buttons. You may not know where to go to make money, but there are actually certain strategies or things you can do on Solana that gives you like 25% or 30% yield on USDC or so. But it's tough for the end user to actually know where they are or deploy it or manage it. So vault products and stuff that work on top of Solana that direct money to them, adjust it when necessary, combining other protocols like Mango and stuff to balance risk and diversification. Those are the kind of stuff I'm interested in.
Yeah, I think I'll come back to wallets, right? I think it sort of starts at wallets. The whole DeFi space, it competes with the CeFi space. If you have, any liquidity on a centralized exchange, that liquidity is there and it costs to be there. Likewise, it costs to be in the DeFi space. I think what's really important to remember is that we're sort of we're competing directly, and when you look at what we need in order to compete, it's this whole onboarding process of getting the user. It has to be much cleaner, much faster, much easier, and that starts with wallets. That starts with giving people the ability to get fiat currency into their wallets very easily, if not crypto. And there's a whole long list of protocols and projects that have been successful, and they didn't have any sort of form of getting fiat currency in, right? So I think there's a whole long list of things that are required for these users to make their sort of journey from CeFi to DeFi. There's also a good possibility that they want to stay in CeFi and don't want to come to DeFi, right? Like, consider trading real estate derivatives. Would you do it on chain or off chain? That's sort of like, if you put yourself in those shoes, why would you want to do that on chain versus off chain? There has to be a really strong argument to do it on chain, because there are a whole lot of other risks involved in providing liquidity on chain, locking your assets in a smart contract. At least you have the clarity with a smart contract. If it's open source, you can see everything. If it's a centralized exchange, you don't have any sort of insight into the inner workings. So I think from the perspective of what we need is perhaps more open source, right? More open source code base and more contributors looking at all of these code bases, which would likely prevent exploits or instances where users are turned off from DeFi because of you don't necessarily see a lot of centralized exchanges getting exploited, but you do see a lot of decentralized projects or protocols get exploited. So I think as time goes on and we sort of get better at this open source nature, that should reduce.
Yeah, and I think just to expand on some of the things you're saying there, like, I think at the core of it, it's this thing of transparency. Can I really see where my assets are going and what's actually happening, like, underneath the hood, and done so in a way that's simple, like anyone can understand it, not just kind of some obscure like block explorer, that type of thing. And so I think if we can work toward like building features that help make the underlyings of these protocols much more transparent, it's going to do a whole lot of good in terms of bringing more trust and sort of mitigating the risks involved in crypto.
Yeah, just to briefly add on to that as well, I think one thing that's really important here as we talk about vulnerabilities and things like this, and obviously many of you guys walked past the signage on the way in, but protocols like Amulet and others that are really looking to tackle the insurance space, I think will be very critical to the DeFi ecosystem in allowing both retail investors but also institutional investors to feel a bit more comfortable with putting large sums of cash into a relatively new smart contract, right? Trevor, you made a really interesting point on the regulatory side. I'm curious for you guys specifically how you guys kind of thought about the regulatory environment and what you're building with Parcel, and sort of what were some of the steps that you guys took to sort of ensure that you felt like you could be proactive in tackling those discussions?
Yeah. The regulatory environment is somewhat complex. So obviously the US has not provided much of a framework. So currently we're geofencing the US and other regions that have been deemed unable to trade within the rest of the world. And what we're doing is we're looking to register in the Bahamas under the DARE Act. That's a common sense framework in a Commonwealth country that will allow us to trade as an exchange there in a decentralized manner. What it will likely require is some KYC, some storage of information, but likely not with the identity. So we're keeping it offshore. It will be in the Bahamas and then also affiliated with our BVI and Cayman entity.
Circle back a bit. Clearly, you guys have all been in the ecosystem for a while. Are there any tips that you guys can share for those in the audience that are thinking about starting a DeFi protocol or looking into the DeFi space and looking for a little bit more information about how they can protect themselves, how they can launch a product, or what are some of the good resources you guys have used in the past year or so since you guys all started building?
Gosh, I guess I would say, if you're going to build something, make sure it has value and it solves a real problem. I think a good way to start with that would be your own self. Like, build something that maybe you would really want and could truly solve a big problem for yourself. And you might find there are others who share, kind of a similar look on things. And yeah, I think that would be my take on it.
Composability. I think when you're designing something that you would like a lot of users to use, you usually forget that they're going to plug into your protocol, your project from other front ends, from other UIs, through other programs. So you want to make it as easy as possible for other projects to compose on top of your project, right? Maybe someone wants to offer additional leverage on top of your real estate derivatives, right? They should be allowed to do that. And I think that's sort of when you're designing this launch of your new project, think about who's already in the space, where all the users are, how you can tackle some of those users or be interesting to some of those users. There are a lot of grants programs where you can build on top of existing protocols. Maybe think about that. Obviously, that depends on your funding and where you sort of stand as a project. But yeah, I think main takeaway from my side would be composability.
I think it's very easy to start small in DeFi. So many open source repos like Mango or Solan you can contribute to. So many small things you can do and build your experience. Or just showing up in Discord can be a good way to start, as evident by how I started. But what I personally feel like new projects should do is that they should look for opportunities or pain points that they can solve with a 10x improvement. So the issue with a lot of projects that we see nowadays is that they take something old or in TradFi, they make it 5% better, and they're like, okay, people will now use my project because my thing is better. But what you really need is something that's really 10 times better. So for Solan, if I'm comparing earning yields in the bank, if you already have a very strong and stable financial infrastructure, bank accounts that are reliable, you won't use Solan. There's no reason to. Or government treasuries. But if you're someone in Ukraine, you don't have accessible to reliable financial infrastructure, then it becomes sort of a 5x or 10x improvement. So start small, do small things on the side, build a reputation, and when you find something that is big and you can do a big improvement, you definitely have product market fit, which is something that a lot of DeFi protocols are sort of struggling with, and that's the way to go to me.
Yeah, I would say for those starting out, the space moves really, really fast. Be open, be flexible. Generally speaking, open to new ideas, and then move fast because there's a lot of things that you may not know until there's actual risk in play. So you can have a testnet environment where money's not actually at risk, and it's kind of it's not real. People care because they're incentivized. When people put their dollars in your protocol and your smart contracts, they care at a different level. So, and that's where you can kind of keep it maybe you can have a closed alpha or a closed initial launch period with minimal risk, but you can really get to the pain points that you're looking to solve.
Awesome. Guys, in these last few minutes, you guys have all been working hard since Breakpoint last year. If you guys have any updates that you'd like to share with the audience, whether it's some things that are coming up on the roadmap, improvements that you guys are looking to make over the next few months, or any announcements you guys are looking to break now would be the time.
Yep, I think I'll go first. So the biggest issue I feel at Solend is that we have a lot of deposits and no way to make use of it. So we've been keeping an eye out for like protocols that can help improve utilization. And the issue with Solend is that everybody borrows at the same APY, and we want to use into ways that users can specify what APY they want to borrow at, and then we can lend out at different APYs to increase utilization. So I'm proud to announce that Solend has recently given the Solend DeFi prize for Solana Summer Camp to Euro Finance, which is a lending order book which lets you place like lets people bid and ask what use you want to lend at and what use you want to borrow at, and they're actually the panel right after this one. So you'll hear from them directly. I'll let them share more.
Nice.
Hey.
Nice. You want to go?
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, sorry.
You got it.
Well, I was going to say just, make in the works of an integration with Solend at the moment, which is awesome. Having met yourself, Trevor, for the first time now, and seeing all the great stuff with Parcel, like, love to do a partnership. Let's expand that asset base further beyond just the crypto space. And yeah, so that'd be what I want to say on that one.
All right, yeah, so I think Mango Markets, the core team has been through quite a lot. I think the community has been through quite a lot in the past couple of weeks with a pretty large exploit. So I think, the whole team flew out here to Breakpoint Lisbon this year. Everyone's sort of like touching base on, what is the next steps. Initially, V4 was in development, so Mango V3 was what I mentioned earlier. We've done $30 billion worth of contracts and value on. V4 is in development. I think we are going to put out some public information in the next couple of weeks, but it is close. We are full steam ahead. There's a lot of things that I think a bunch of let's say DeFi dexes are thinking about now after the events of what happened with Mango Markets. We're thinking about it as well. We're thinking about robust oracles. We're thinking about having weekly councils around the structure of indexes, which is probably something that we should have had and everyone should have, right? Which is more of a let's say like a CeFi kind of setup. But yeah, I think we're quite excited. V4 is coming. V4 gets rid of all the limits of V3. For anyone who didn't know, V3 was limited to 15 oracles, which means we could only have 15 assets on the DEX as margin for any of your trades. V4 makes that sort of go away, and we will have an unlimited amount of margin potential. Obviously, that's going to be capped because if you have unlimited margin, that's a recipe for disaster on as we've seen. So yeah, that's a bit of an update from our side. I think the team is just collecting themselves, and we'll have some good news in the coming weeks.
Nice. Good job on handling all that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Parcel, so we had a gated alpha, as I kind of just alluded to. We had about 1,000 people able to participate. 500 people did, gated by our NFT. This was in June, a couple weeks after we had about $200,000 traded. We are introducing a fast follow V2, which is a PvP AMM. It's much like a perpetual prediction market on the prices of real estate. What it does is it allows us to be much more capital efficient. You can have mathematical leverage up to 10x, long, short, a peg stability that holds to the peg that we say. And so it's effectively just a much more enhanced version of what we initially came out with. Audit started, we submitted our code yesterday for one audit, and we'll do another audit shortly thereafter. Look for the gated alpha V2 early December. We're actually, like right when you go down those stairs, when you exit, are giving demonstrations. So check it out. We'd love to show you.
Nice.
All right, guys, that concludes our panel today. Thank you guys all for listening in, and thank you guys for taking the time to come up and chat with the crowd. Really appreciate it.